have any comments, corrections, or motions in regard to those minutes?
I just have one proposed change. I'm not listed as being present,
And I think
nor am I
you-
listed as being absent.
Okay,
However, I was present.
okay, and you were present.
Right.
Okay, so with that one change, do we have any additional changes or comments? Do we have any motions?
Move to approve.
Second.
This would be a roll call vote.
Is it?
Yeah, sure.
Minutes?
Oh,
It's a voice vote, it's fine today.
darn, on the cheat sheet, they put it's a roll call vote. Who did that?
Help
Okay,
us without his teleprompter.
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda would be the bicycle master plan. That's going to be presented by Megan O'Neill. Oh, wait,
Newman.
Newman. Sorry. Why did I say O'Neill? Anyways, I'm sorry, Megan, but
Doesn't change.
it does happen. And, well, anyways, well, your turn. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairman Novit, members of the council. Good evening. My name is Megan Newman, planner with the City of Lake Forest. I'm very excited to be here tonight, finally, to present on behalf of the Bicycle Master Plan project team, as well as members of the resident focus group and individuals who were critical in the development of the Bicycle Master Plan, which is before the council this evening. The Bicycle Master Plan is presented as part of an update to the transportation chapter of the City of Lake Forest's comprehensive plan relating to pedestrian and bicycle facilities in order to recognize the goal of making Lake Forest a more bicycle-friendly. Tonight I will give an overview of the public process that we went through to get to this point, some background information on bicycle planning in general, a description of key ideas from the plan, and then an update on some bike-related projects that are going on in town. The process started in the fall of 2011 when several residents expressed interest in making the community more bike-friendly at various ward meetings in the community. At that point, the City Council directed staff to facilitate the development of a bicycle master plan. From there, a project team consisting of staff from community development, parks and recreation, engineering, public safety, was formed by city staff in collaboration from other community and regional entities such as Lake Forest Open Lands, Lake County DOT, and the Village of Lake Bluff. The concepts incorporated into the master plan are a result of this public process, and it includes input received from a community survey, public workshops, meetings, and conversations with the residents' focus group. In January of this year, the Plan Commission reviewed the Bicycle Master Plan and the proposed update to the comprehensive plan, and unanimously recommended approval of the project to the City Council. So I'd like to take a little step back and look at the bigger picture of bicycle planning in order to give you a sense of what is happening to give bicycling more momentum in local communities. Nationally, there has been an increasing interest in creating healthy communities in terms of providing adequate open space, recreation opportunities, walkable business districts, and more recently, especially given the increase in gas prices, bikeability. To that end, government agencies have developed complete street policies, bicycle guidelines, that look at accommodations for all modes of transportation within the right-of-way. Both Lake County and Illinois Departments of Transportation have adopted complete street policies, and as you drive around town or bike around town, you may be able to see improvements happening on the road, county and state roads that support pedestrian and bicycle connections. Local master plans and comprehensive plans can help plan for local connection and close gaps regionally. Additionally, federal funding for bicycle and complete streets improvements are more readily accessible to local communities at this time. As noted earlier, this process began as a result of local interest. And since we've started this project, we've experienced a lot of momentum and interest in bicycling in Lake Forest. I'd just like to point out the graphic on the slides right now. This is a result of an interesting study that looked at the typical makeup of a community as it relates to bicycling. The study concluded that 30% of a typical community really has no interest in bicycling, and you're not going to change that opinion regardless of what you do. On the other side of the spectrum, there's a small percentage of people who are strong and fearless. They will get out and bike regardless of weather, regardless of road conditions. A slightly larger percentage of people are confident and enthusiastic. What they're looking for is a smooth road and a place to go. What was interesting is that the majority of the makeup of a population or a community, the 60%, are the interested but concerned. These are people who really need a little bit more encouragement, some direction, some guidance to help them feel comfortable on the roadways and get from point A to point B on a bicycle. And that really created a foundation for our bicycle master plan. So what is a bicycle master plan? The simple answer to that question is it's a way to identify a bicycle network and plan for future improvements. What bicycle advocates and other communities have done and identified is that a bicycle master plan should be much more than just a network or a layout of preferred routes. The project team really took that direction, and the proposed plan incorporates not only a network, but also what are known as the 5 E's of bicycle planning. These E's include education, or teaching people to share the road, encouragement, getting people excited about bicycling in the community, enforcement, understanding the rules of the road, engineering, outlining what are you going to build in the community, and evaluation, the creation of a dynamic document that can be revisited as components of the plan are implemented to ensure consistency with the overall vision for Lake Forest and the city's comprehensive plan. The Bicycle Master Plan is really a high-level planning document. The project team evaluated the existing street network and identified routes that provide critical bicycle connections within the community and identified ways to enhance those connections to accommodate bicycles within the right-of-way or along trails. The Plan Commission recommended to the City Council acceptance of the Bicycle Master Plan as part of the city's comprehensive plan. This will set the framework to encourage people to bike in Lake Forest, identify safe bicycle routes, establish priorities for future bicycle improvements, and identify ways to educate both cyclists and drivers to share the road. One of the recurring themes from the public input sessions for the Bicycle Master Plan is that Lake Forest and Lake Bluff really have good assets when it comes to bicycling. The existing recreational trails in Lake Forest primarily run north and south. These include, for those of you who are not familiar with those paths, the McClory Bike Path along the Union Pacific North railroad tracks. On the east side of Lake Forest, the Skokie Valley Bike Path along the ComEd easement by Highway 41. And in Lake Bluff, there's also a bike path along Route 176. These off-street paths really create a core for the proposed bicycle network. In addition to the off-road trails, Lake Forest has numerous low-traffic, low-speed streets. These are suitable for bicycling and contribute to the community's bike network. It's important to recognize this because if bikes are to become a viable transportation option in Lake Forest, the network really needs to go where cars go. And for the average adult rider, riding on the streets is actually safer than riding on sidewalks. So through the public process, residents identified local destinations in Lake Forest, the need for a safe east-west connection, regional connections that they would like to see enhanced, hazards within the community for bicyclists, and dream routes showing streets where they would like to comfortably bike. I think the goals and objectives outlined in the plan do a good job of summarizing the main ideas identified through the public process and work with the resident focus group. The goals set the framework for the plan to generate awareness and acceptance of bicycling in Lake Forest, to connect major destinations within Lake Forest and facilitate access to an established network, to provide safe transportation options for all people of all abilities in Lake Forest, to protect the environment for the long term by promoting bicycling as a viable transportation option, and to promote bicycling as a healthy, safe, convenient, and enjoyable means of transportation. The Plan Commission recognized the benefit of an established bicycle network in connecting people to key destinations within the community. These destinations include recreational destinations such as parks, the train stations, as well as local business districts within the community. The Bicycle Master Plan was created to provide an implementation tool that allows us to think broadly and plan for improvements within the city limits that make sense locally as well as regionally. Acceptance of the Bicycle Master Plan would put the city of Lake Forest in a good position to take advantage of the available grant funding and to participate in projects that have regional benefits. In addition, the Plan Commission noted the positive impact bicycling has on the community in terms of health, the environment, and economic development. Additionally, the Plan Commission identified the Bicycle Master Plan and ultimately an update to the comprehensive plan, the benefit to raise awareness of bicycling in the community and encourage predictable behavior on the roadways. The fiscal impact of this planning document is essentially nothing at this point. The plan does not commit the city to any specific project. What this does is, as appropriate, the individual pieces of the plan could be included in the annual capital improvements project as projects are identified along key routes within the community. To achieve the established goals, the master plan includes core routes, which are critical to the connectivity of the network. This map is shown larger in your packets that you received in the Bicycle Master Plan. So there's core routes, there's branch connections that facilitate access to key destinations, and also opportunities which provide creative connections that could enhance the overall network. So briefly, how does this plan work? I'll just touch on a few key ideas of the plan. The plan provides a toolkit for Lake Forest that includes signage to identify and direct cyclists, pavement markers to help bikes and cars share the road, pathways along major roadways when appropriate and safe, as well as maintenance and enhancement of the existing paths and trails. The tools can then be implemented to improve the bicycle level of service on routes identified in the master plan. I would like to just clarify that a large part of the implementation process will be evaluating the character of a route and determining the lowest impact facility to improve the connection. There are some instances where more dramatic changes are warranted, but for the most part, the tools and recommended improvements in the plan attempt to work within the existing conditions and roadway limitations. I think it's important to point out that the master plan does promote bicycling and making improvements that support bicycling in Lake Forest, but the biggest benefit to both motorists and cyclists is that implementation of the plan will help to establish and encourage predictable behavior on our roadways. Here's an example of how the addition of what's known as a sharrow, the pavement marking that's added here on Wesley Road, starts to identify a route for bicyclists and tells a driver that bikes may be present on this roadway. As a driver and a cyclist on this road sharing the road, drivers may need to pass this cyclist as they do a slow-moving vehicle. Part of this plan includes community outreach and teaching people to share the road. Interestingly enough, other communities have found that by adding bicycle facilities on routes such as this, what's actually happened is more vehicles obey the speed limit and more cyclists obey the rules of the road. So it's a win-win situation in most cases. I'd like to give a quick summary of the 5 E's that I mentioned earlier today, the first being engineering, just to show how they're integrated into the Bicycle Master Plan. Engineering priorities on the routes identified in the bicycle network are shown in a matrix at the end of the Bicycle Master Plan. The priorities include infrastructure projects, such as a path connection within the central business district, intersection improvements, such as bike boxes to help encourage people and make them feel safe as they're crossing busy roads, and clarification of signage along key routes to really encourage and not discourage bicycling. Education is a key component to this bicycle master plan. It will be important to continue to communicate with cycling groups in the Lake Forest community through signage and outreach, and really work to make Lake Forest a bicycle-friendly community. This is of course, going to require participation from both motorists and cyclists to share the road and obey traffic laws. We have a lot of good resources in the community through local bike groups and shops, Croya, the environmental group at the high school. A lot of people have expressed interest in participating in these outreach programs, and really to help distribute the rules of the road and encourage predictable and safe behavior. There are certainly many ways to encourage bicycling, and most go hand in hand with the educational outreach that I just mentioned. But in general, encouragement can be as big as promoting a bicycle ride in Lake Forest or local bike and dine groups, to simply providing safe and accessible bike parking at a key destination. The idea is really to promote infrastructure and activities that make people more comfortable riding a bike to help achieve the goals outlined in the plan. So finally, as I mentioned, the Bicycle Master Plan is a framework to guide future development. The plan will be presented at the City Council meeting this evening as part of an update to the Transportation Chapter of the city's comprehensive plan to really help align the goals of the Bicycle Master Plan with the overall vision for the city. There is currently a brief paragraph regarding bicycling in the comprehensive plan, and the proposed update expands that section to include the goals that we reviewed this evening, and incorporates the bicycle network map that we went over as well. To ensure that the plan doesn't collect dust on a shelf, assembly of a working project group is recommended to review capital improvement projects at the staff level and to make sure that the correct questions are asked at the appropriate time, so that as projects are brought forward, bicycle improvements are considered as part of those capital improvements. Before I conclude, I'd like to take just a few moments to provide you with an update on a couple bike-related projects going on in Lake Forest. The first is related to the Grand Illinois Trail. Lake Forest is fortunate enough to have a segment of the Grand Illinois Trail within the city limits, and that falls along the McClory bike path, as I noted, was along the bicycle tracks on the east side of town. The Grand Illinois Trail is an initiative started by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and it's a goal to join together several existing trails and proposed trails to create a 500-mile loop through Illinois. Lake County Department of Transportation has started this initiative to identify and really highlight those segments of the Grand Illinois Trail that fall within Lake County. So part of this initiative would be to work with local communities, Lake Forest included, to install signs along the trails to help identify and promote this asset in the community, both locally and regionally. What's really positive about this type of advertisement is we now become eligible for IDNR grants by promoting this segment of the Grand Illinois Trail. Another project that we just completed, you may have seen at your places, a Bike to Metro guide that was recently completed in collaboration with the League of Illinois Bicyclists. This was a partnership that the League of Illinois Bicyclists initiated to connect with local communities along metro tracks, or the metro lines, to promote bicycling as a means of transportation and as part of your commute, so using the train and your bike to get from your home to your place of employment. This was a successful project where this League of Illinois Bicyclists received several grants to provide 80% of the total costs of a project. The city provided a local contribution of 20%, and now we have a nice project or product to share with the community to highlight bicycling in Lake Forest. So with that, It is my hope that this introduction will give you a better understanding of what the bicycle master plan is and give you an opportunity to comment and ask questions of me this evening. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
And any questions from council or comments? And it goes without saying, we appreciate all the efforts that have gone into creating a starting point for bicycling in Lake Forest and a starting point for hope grants coming from the state and government to encourage more integration of bicycle trails. Any thoughts from council or?
I have a question. I think you made the statement that it's safer to bicycle on city streets than sidewalks. On what basis do you make that statement?
Actually, in recent years, there have been a lot of studies to this point. The visibility of a cyclist on the street is tremendously greater than a cyclist on a sidewalk, especially when that sidewalk is separated with vegetation or site restrictions. I would say the majority of bicycle crashes occur when a bicycle is on a sidewalk and a car turns into them because they don't know that they're there and they're moving at a faster rate than a pedestrian would, which causes the collision.
Because we direct cyclists on Green Bay Road to use the sidewalks.
Currently, that is a sign that exists on Green Bay Road and Deerpath. I think as part of this evaluation, removal of those signs would be appropriate. There are sidewalks available if people are moving at a slower pace, they're not quite comfortable being on the road is too narrow to support bicycle improvements. They can choose to ride on the sidewalk, but the Illinois law is that bikes should be on the road and not on the sidewalks.
Is that correct? I mean, can you give me the citation after the meeting?
I
for
can.
that? Thank you.
Yes.
The problem I see, because I go along Everett Road a lot, particularly on weekends, is you get groups of cyclists, and they'll ride like 3 or 4 abreast, and not just on Everett, but down Ridge and some other roads. And I think it's a problem with traffic because you have to pass them. And sometimes if you're passing them in a car, because there's a long curve that's blind, a car shows up the other side, you've got to get over, and you're probably going to get over into the bicyclist that you're trying to pass. Same thing is on Old Elm Road on east of 41, because it undulates, and you can't see above the hill whether there's a car coming on the other side. Now, if you have a single bicyclist, you can swing by them, but I don't know what to do about these packs of cyclists that typically it's on the weekend, and I think it's only a matter of time till there's an accident.
I think what the bicycle master plan can do to address that concern is really work to provide education and outreach to communities, or to local bike groups, to really make sure that everyone is obeying the rules of the road, to understand where the dangerous places on the road are, so that they can skinny up at those points. Be aware that when cars are coming, that there is a need to share those roadways.
I don't think it's a matter of education. I think it's a matter of they just don't care. And maybe our village manager can talk about the experience of our police department in trying to control some of these people, because I've heard stories about it. Maybe our police chief can talk about even better.
I can try.
Okay.
It is very difficult to control. The packs of bike, as you refer to, majority of the time they're coming through town. They're not in town a long time. I agree. They do take up the road. It's usually on Sunday mornings or maybe early Sunday afternoon. There is not a lot of traffic. I think, as Megan alluded to, the bottom line is both cars and bikes have to learn to share the road. We try to go out there, especially early in the biking season, and we try and get the groups at the train stations where they congregate and let them know to make sure that they're staying to the right. They're allowed to ride 2 abreast. The law doesn't specify how close that has to be. Is that 10 feet apart or whatnot? It is very difficult to enforce. When you have 30, 40, 50 bikes going down the road, it's very hard for a police officer to pick the guy out that you're going to write a ticket to, or at least stop and give a warning to, or try and educate. We try and educate them before they leave. And again, the bottom line is if cars and bikes kind of work together, hopefully that'll be a solution. It's not a perfect solution. I don't know if there is a perfect solution other than really widening all the roads, which obviously is probably not going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
I have
Oh,
a
Chief?
question. What happens when there's a bike lane built like there is on Everett crossing the bridge?
Mm-hmm.
Are bikes required to take the bike lane, or do they get to pick and choose whether they want to drive in the road or take the bike lane? Because again, same issue. They're all in the road, the bike lane is empty, and you get 10 cars backed up waiting to cross the bridge who can't pass them because nobody uses these lanes. So if we're going to do this going forward and expand this, how do you create a situation where, bicycles not only are encouraged to use the things that we've built for them, but they actually have to use them?
Obviously, you can regulate them to have to use them. Right now, they're not required to use it. The law says they can be on the road as long as they're obeying the rules of the road for bicycles. So right now, they're not required to be on that, especially going over Everett Road. We hope that they do for their safety and to alleviate congestion. We know they don't. We try and hopefully we'll get to do that, but when you have these big, large groups on the Sunday mornings or even Saturday mornings, they're not going to ride in that small little bike path, quite honestly, because sometimes it maybe cause a little more danger for them if they're close together, they happen to bump the rail or whatever happens that way.
Sure. But it does beg the question, if we're going to ask people to spend money and set aside resources to do these things, and there's just, then nobody uses them because frankly they're too small, they're not, we don't want to do it this way. I could see somebody saying, well, I don't want to spend resources on something that these people who do this, plain and simple, have no interest in using. And it seems to me that on the roads, Western, Deerpath, Green Bay, where there is a sign that says ride your cycles on the sidewalk, which I've always thought was kind of dumb, especially on Western where you can't even see them if you're coming out of your driveway. Nobody does that either. So we have signs that say ride them over here, and then we don't enforce those. And we have bike paths that suggest that you should ride them over here, and we don't enforce those because it's difficult. And then we have a master plan that says we want to expand this. And it just seems to me like, why would we expand something that clearly doesn't work already?
Can I comment on that? What both you and Alderman Palmer are addressing is just one segment of the biking population, the highly visible one, road bikers. I bike a lot, and I'm scared to death of riding on the road. For me, a comprehensive plan like this is going to provide access so that I can get to the McCrory Trail, so I can get to the Lake County Forest Preserve trails. And relative to Everett Road, we always use the bike path to go over the bridge, and I'm always very mindful coming up Everett Road from the Daniel Wright Woods and hoping that one day they will put in one of those share rows so that I feel a little safer from the cars. And I don't know, maybe Megan, you can respond to this. I don't know what percentage of the total biking population are wannabe Tour de France guys tearing up the streets versus wannabe mountain bikers tearing up the forest preserve. Do you know?
I would say that I think you said it well, that the large bike groups are highly visible in the community. They do create a conflict with motorists on certain times of the day, on the weekends, early in the morning. But the target group for the plan is really the average cyclist who wants to be able to visit a friend on the other side of town on a bike, who may need a little more encouragement along the road, or something that says, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be on the road so that I feel safe going from point A to point B. So echoing what Chief Heldman said, there's not a perfect solution to the bike packs. I think education really will help, especially with the use of the side path on that bridge on Everett. There's not a good sign that says that's happening there. That's one of those things where looking regionally, this bicycle master plan can help improve those connections. The bridge is just outside of the city of Lake Forest. Now that we have could have a comprehensive plan, we could help improve that connection to regional improvements.
And when you speak about
education, and I agree that's very important, but in terms of that small segment, the bike packs or whatever, and I've received complaints in my ward, I think they maybe are educated. I think I sometimes get the feeling that they're educated, but they choose not to obey the rules. And, you know, they don't stop at stop signs. It's probably tough because you got to unclip and you got to stop and then you got to stop your momentum and start again. But if you're going to ride on the road, so I think that's just, I don't know if, for the rest of us, education is great, but what do you do about a segment that may be refusing to be educated?
Mr. Chairman, can I just
yeah.
interject here? Why don't we put that subject on a future council agenda, because it is somewhat different than what's before you this evening. I agree it's an issue. I will tell you it's been an issue for 20-plus years that I've been here. It will be an issue for the next 20-plus years, because those bikers change. And some will adhere to the rules of the road, some will not. And, you know, as the chief probably tried to politely say, I mean, we can go out and we can do some things, but the reality is, unless we're going to put officers out there, you know, for the whole day and monitor that kind of situation, we're going to have these kinds of problems. But I'm also very conscious of the time that we have here this evening to try and deal with the comprehensive plan aspects of what Megan is trying to present. So we'll put it on a future city council agenda, and we can talk about it at great length at that time if you want.
As said, this is a starting point. We still have to go into executive session at approximately 7:15, and I do want to have an opportunity for public comment.
Well, I also been waiting to say something too, so if I could ask.
If you can, very quickly.
You know, Megan, I understand the nature of a master plan, kind of identifies the whole scope. And throughout the master plan, you addressed very clearly that we're lacking the east-west connections. And as a bicyclist, as one of the ones who likes to get to the Forest Preserve, and with 4 children who have, you know, gone to Lake Forest Club and have had fun on the other side of Highway 41, I felt that the master plan, while excellently put together, lacked a little bit of specificity. And I know it's not designed to be specific, but something to identify that the next key targets would be something other than the 6-mile round trip from Deerpath to go to 176. There is no safe path across town to get to the forest preserves, which, and I wish former Mayor, right there, I forgot his name.
Rummel.
Sorry? Rummel, sorry, mind fart there. We're here because they've got, I think it's hundreds of miles of trails, and they're just over the roads for the kids to get on and drive around in the forest preserves. So it was well put together. You know, 80% are recreationalists. You know, you put in here over and over again, very well put, that we're lacking the east-west connections. You know, the connectivity to the regional bike trails, the neighboring communities. But as a bicyclist and a parent, without sending my kids on a 20-mile bike ride, we really feel locked into the north-south trail on the railroad tracks in McCory. And if there's anything this master plan could do to identify, and clearly these are paths in front of yards and next to homes and a lot of content. Nobody wants it next to their house. Everybody wants it, of course, but something that could get us over, you know, behind, on the other side of Waukegan Road. And I've got a lot of friends who bike, and for those who aren't the road bikers, that seems to be the big topic for them, is the connectivity to get the youth involved. And I think you've addressed things like bicycles instead of cars very well and things like that, but I really do believe that it's recreation and exercise seems to be, from my experience in Lake Forest, seems to be the big use of bikes here. And we're really lacking, you know, we're lacking that. The enthusiast who bikes 30 miles, 7 miles is no problem. 6-7 miles to get across the highway is no problem. And even there, you've got to cross some roads and wait for some stop signs, but it's much safer. If there was something this could do to emphasize that need for a Wesley or a Deerpath or a 41 across Laurel, and I know these are multi-million-dollar projects, but it hasn't really been pointed out to the level that I think a master plan could at this point. That was my only point.
Just a quick response, I guess. I think for that reason, the bicycle master plan isn't as specific as this route should have this improvement, because those types of projects do need to be analyzed. They need to be looked at, cost-benefit analysis. They all need to be done. But what it does do is identify Wesley Road, Laurel Avenue, some of those streets that you mentioned as high priority in the community. So as projects come up on those routes, we will do that evaluation and say, is it feasible to do that now, or do we have to put another, longer-term plan, detailed plan in place for those types of improvements?
Well, thanks. I hope it leads to that. Thanks.
Yeah, I've got one last final comment, and that is I think you did a bang-up job on this, and I look at it as like a framework like our Constitution, and going forward for grant funding when we rebuild roads, to keep it in mind that this is what we want to accomplish. And I agree with David, we need the east-west connection.
Key.
And as said, starting point, I'm going to draw a comment from council to a conclusion. At this point, we're going to move on to the segment that would be the opportunity for public comment on this or any other issues. And we have someone from the public. And even though I know your name, would you please state
Hi,
your
I'm
full
Steve
name?
Goldman. I live at 720 Oakwood, and thank you for doing this study. I worked with Megan on this, and I really think that this is a bang-up job. I'm the face of the road biker who is not in a pack of 40. I don't even ride on Everett. I ride, along this path, and we have a fantastic bike path. I mean, if you want to go from here all over the place, you can go on bike paths. So I think that it's great to have a master plan. I think what's important is to make sure we connect and connect to other paths. So there are other paths all over the place with gaps, right? And so this is a little bit more of can also be a little bit more of a regional thing. How do we connect to existing paths so that there are good paths, good safe ways for people to ride? Also, I want to bring out the fact that we want to make sure we continue to have a capital budget to maintain the paths we have, right? So we have good paths, they need investment. I'm often riding, when I get into a buckled blacktop, I'm thinking, I wonder if they're gonna have money to pay to do something about that. So I think it's, important for us to continue to fund that, as well as there's many places, I can name them, there's not enough time right now, where it's dangerous, right? I know how to watch it, but we as the city and you as the government need to should try to figure out how to deal with those dangerous spots so that somebody's not riding across a road thinking that they're protected and they're not. But I want to just suggest that as a regional thing, I think this plan is fantastic, and I would also suggest that if at all possible, Lake Forest take a leadership role in trying to tie together the communities, because this is really, how does Lake Forest work with Highland Park and Northbrook and Lake Bluff and all the surrounding municipalities to put these bike paths together? And I think, Bob, you brought up the bike path on Everett. It is going to always be there. They're just coming through town and they have a bad attitude. But the rest of us really like this bike paths, and I just want to suggest that this is a fantastic presentation that I hope you will accept and set up the plans for the next 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who would like to address council? And again, even though I know your name, and thank you for sending the materials to myself and other council members, would you please state your full name?
You're welcome. Dan Sebald. I live at 560 Ivy Court in Ward 1. What I'd like to do, first a few comments. Alderman Moore's comment about specificity is one thing that we discussed a lot. It was trying to strike a balance between the two. I think lack of actual funds to work with is partly the reason for that. I'd like to thank the city staff for doing such a wonderful job with this, and the volunteers as well. Put a lot of work into it, had some great workshops. And that's what this master plan is about. But I'd like to address the master plan in a broader context and maybe address some of the issues with Everett Road that came up from the council. The bicycle master plan reflects what I like to think of as livable cities. And a livable city is one in which an automobile is just an option for transportation. And you have alternatives such as bicycling and walking pedestrian. And that's the main idea here. And what I'd like to illustrate is how I feel Lake County is going in the wrong direction. And it has to do with the amount of road expansion in the county. Now, I just learned recently that there was some type of tax, like a half-cent tax or something like that, to set aside funds for road expansion in the county. And I would like to quote from an article from the Sun-Times by Frank Abderholden. And this is County Board Chairman Aaron Lawler, a Vernon Hills resident. And I note it's Vernon Hills, which is a community that I don't know if has a city core to it. Said the total road budget for 2013 is $100 million, and officials are planning on spending $500 million over the next 5 years. This is the largest road program we have ever had to ease traffic congestion, he said. Now, anyone who's familiar with city planning knows that building more roads does not ease congestion. It just contributes to it. And this is the situation you have on Everett Road. If you think about it, there's a lot of people who buy homes in Vernon Hills area and the stretches of the county, and they're using Waukegan Road to get to and from work. If you look at the alternative on Waukegan, you have stoplights at Everett, High School, 60. You turn left, you go to Conway Business Park. There's a couple stoplights there. Stoplight at the on-ramp for the interstate. Past the interstate at rush hour, cars are backed up from Milwaukee Road all the way to the interstate. This is the kind of traffic congestion that is created with this kind of expenditure. So with that, if you're driving on Highway 41 and you think of all the stops along the way, what do? You turn at Everett and you go to Everett to St. Mary's to bypass all that. There's no stop sign anymore because of the $1.9 million roundabout. And the consequence is that recreational riders or anyone who wants to ride on Everett is now kind of squeezed out of this. The condition of the roads are very bad now. They have potholes, whereas a few years ago they didn't. The same thing on Telegraph Road, and these are expenditures that the city has to take care of. Now, with regarding that bridge, this is a great example of why you need a bicycle master
If I
plan.
could ask a favor, if I could limit you to another minute, we have to go
Right.
into executive session.
With that road, that's a great example of how it was designed to squeeze bicyclists off the road. It was narrowed and then a lane was added. What the bicycle master plan and a bicycle liaison for the city could look at this and evaluate and say, this does not fit into our plan. Instead, you could have made a wider bicycle lane that would have been sufficient. Right now, you're expecting bicyclists who are going 20 miles an hour to get onto that path. They have, right where Conway comes out, they have to swerve onto the path. And there's also cars that come up and stop right in front of that path. So this is the kind of thing that the city and a bicycle master plan is aimed to prevent. Thanks.
Thank you. And are there any other members of the public who'd like to address council on the bicycle master plan or any other issues? And thank you. And would you please identify yourself for the record?
Burns 290 Woodland Road. So I think the key here, there's a lot of different opinions, but I think there's two different types of bicyclists. One are the avid bicyclists that you see in packs. The others are the local people like myself. So if you create a path whereby you have it designated for people like myself, all the other bicyclists, the big pack ones, are not going to follow it. So I think if you build it, they will go away. So I think that's the key as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. And Mr. Pasquesi? I mean, would you identify yourself for council?
Pasquazi, 172 North Washington. I'm sure you all know what's going to happen in this town in the next year for bicycles and everybody else. But if I had kids, I wouldn't let them ride a bike in this town. First, the hospital's going to have the traffic going north to 176. Target is going to be built on the old Chevrolet property. Now, if you got kids and you're going to let them go through into this traffic, I don't think they're going to make it. Has anybody thought about that? This is what's coming. And I like the brochure and everything, but we've got some problems.
Thank you, and that's one of the reasons why we want to have further education and more organization. So it is dealing with congestion, more development, and trying to organize what will be existing.
Well, you better take that into consideration, though.
Yeah.
It's going to be serious.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to address council? And you're going to be our final one tonight. And
Peggy Goodbranson, 736 Beverly. I just wanted to add to the Chief of Police's comments, and Alderman, I believe it was Palmer, was questioning the weekend, Memorial Day weekend, the whole weekend, the police were on Old Elm. They were stopping every fast bicyclist. I don't know what they were stopping them for, but probably for either riding not in pack in more than one, and also for not stopping at the stop signs. But they were stopping every blasted bicyclist except me. But I was so pleased to see that.
no, appreciate it. You were probably going too fast, but we do have to educate. That being said, I'm going to close comment on this issue, and again, it's a starting point for comment and discussion so we could formulate a plan that'll be stronger. At this point, I'd like to ask for a motion from a member of council to go into executive session.
I move we go into executive session.
Do we have a second?
For the purpose of reviewing executive session minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
It's got to be a voice, it's got to be a roll call vote, doesn't it?
It is a roll call vote.
You're batting 1,000.
Yeah, that's,
Mayor Schoenheider.
Aye.
Alderman Novit.
aye.
Alderman Waldeck.
Aye.
Alderman Moore.
Aye.
Alderman Pandaleon.
Aye.
Alderman Reisenberg.
Aye.
Alderman Tack.
Aye.
Alderman Palmer.
Aye.
Alderman Adelman.
Aye.
9-0, motion carries.
Motion carries.